Hi, Paul D here, and today we're going to be tying Bear's Bunker. This is a fly that we use on the lower Housatonic here in Connecticut. It's a great fly for stripers. Housatonic is a very unique river, northwestern part of the state. It's a world-class trout fishery, and down where I live, about an hour away, we have stripers which winter over here every year. The salinity content in the river is very high, and it kind of keeps them in there. This fly here, Bear's Bunker, is made with a material called Flash and Slinky. Normally I'm a natural material type of fly tyer. However, kind of fell in love with this material. It's got the flash built in it. It moves really well in the water. It's got multi-iridescent colors when it's moving. Stripers just seem to love it. We tie it in a variety of different colors. This fly here is in black and white. We also tie it in orange. Great color. Seems to be very productive. Certainly olive. Another great color. Black works phenomenal at night. Dark profile, moving in the water. Have a lot of success with it. And we also tie it in very large sizes. And when we do, that fly's about 4 or 5 inches long. When we do, we'll put a mono loop in it so that the wing doesn't fall at the bend of the hook. I'm going to start tying this on a Gamakatsu B10S hook. You could use your favorite saltwater hook. You could use, Mustad 34007s, Tiemco 600s. Whatever your personal preference is. I'm going to be tying this with a mono thread, and this mono is a great thread to use for these artificial materials. Starting at the eye, and I'm wrapping back to the bend of the hook. This fly was developed by a number of us to fish the lower Housatonic, and good friends of mine, including Lou Eagle, certainly Bear Cochran, a friend who fly happens to be named after. And the first part of the material is we're going to be applying our lighter colors on the bottom, because in bait fish in nature, that lighter colors are normally on the bottom of the fly. And we're going to measure the material on the hook shank, and we want it anywhere from a hook shank length to a hook shank and a half off the back end of the fly. One thing about this material, it tends to spin on the hook shank, so you really want to use the pinch method and really bind it down and hold it in place until you get a number of wraps down. So that's the first section of the material that we'll be tying on. Then what we're going to do is we're going to invert our hook, and we're going to take what's left over of our strand of material. We're going to spin it in our fingers. Again, we don't want a straight cut on it. It's not a form that's evident in nature. And what I'm doing is I'm separating the fibers, and I'm going to tie the second piece on at a 45-degree angle. Now, some of my friends, when they tie it on, they'll tie it on one side, and then they'll bring it and divide it over the hook shank. I like to save a little time, and I'll divide it here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down 2/3 the length of the tail that we tied on previously. The pinch method. Now, holding that down while I bind it down really good. Normally when I'm tying a trout fly or other saltwater flies, you give it 3 wraps and you're all set. But this material tends to spin a little bit, so we really want to make sure it's bound down. Now when we tie on the belly section, what we're going to do is we're going to tie the lengths from the hook shank up to the hook point. And again, that's going to allow us not to have to trim it like many of the Puglisi patterns. The other thing too is when this fly gets wet, it really kind of condenses. And we're going to add one more belly section or two. This fly's going really fast compared to, again, many of the other bait patterns where you have to do some trimming and So again, our tail is a hook shank and a half length. Our next piece of material that we tied on was 45 degrees, 2/3 of the length of that first piece. And then these belly sections go from the hook shank to approximately the hook point. And we're going to tie on one more little section here. And clean that up a bit. Reinvert our fly. And what I'm going to do now is just to kind of bind that down and strengthen it, because saltwater flies tend to take a lot of abuse. They tend to stay near the bottom and get banged up. Is we're going to apply a little bit of Flex Cement to the hook shank. I like Flex Cement because it tends to be absorbed by the materials. Use nail polish and the other head cement that you want to use. What we're going to do now is we're going to tie sides on the fly, deceiver style. And we're going to make that just past, we're going to tie that on so it goes just past the bend of the hook. That one side on. And each time I'm rolling this material, I want to make it to look more natural on the hook shank. You can bulk up this fly as little or as much as you want. Sometimes sparse tends to work good, depends on what you're trying to imitate. Use it for bay anchovies, peanut bunker. Any rogue fibers, you can just clip them. Now we've got the bottom part of the fly completed, and we're going to start darkening it up a little bit when we tie our wing on. And I'm going to go with a little bit of a smoke and gray type wing, and we're going to make that at least the length, just a little hair longer than the length of the fly. And next, we're going to apply our dark topping or dark wing. So we've got 2 layers of wing so far. Again, for a size 1 fly. Tying a bigger fly, again, that can vary a little bit. Also, if you're going smaller, you only have the ability to place one section of wing on there. And then finally, I'm going to apply one more section of dark wing, and that's going to be about half the length of our fly here. Give it a little bit of a thicker profile towards the front. And when we fish these, we'll strip them back. What we also want to do is dead drift them for stripers. Sometimes they'll sit in the current, just waiting for that bait to come down. And it happens a lot. We fish a lot of a couple estuaries at the mouth of the river, and they're waiting there, and they open their mouth and vacuum them in. And sometimes it's a light hit, and sometimes they'll hit very strong. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put some 3D eyes on the fly, molded eyes. You can use stick-on eyes. It's really a matter of your personal preference. Some of us like to oversize our eyes a little bit. And to finish the fly, what we'll do is put a little of epoxy over the eyes and also on the nose of the fly. Bind down our wraps. And that's it. That's the completed Bear's Bunker. If you have any questions, just email me. Great pattern. We get people coming up to us all the time asking what we're using. Very easy pattern fly to cast. I hope you have good luck with it. Thanks.